Welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha, a podcast shared by David Roylance. This podcast is dedicated to guiding you to completely eliminate the discontent mind and the suffering it causes by attaining enlightenment. Learn and practice the teachings of Gautama Buddha that will guide you to fully attain a peaceful, calm, serene, and content mind with joy. To support this podcast, visit patreon.com/supportbuddha or visit buddhadailywisdom.com, where you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online learning resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Now, here's our teacher to share more.
Sawadee Kap, everyone. Welcome. I'll go ahead and get started by just officially welcoming all of you guys to our class today. Nice to see you here. Whether you're joining here at the temple or you're joining online, welcome to all of you guys. This is our group learning program where each Sunday and Wednesday I get together with students at Wat Tung Yu in the morning there in Chiang Mai. And then in the evenings at 9 p.m. I get together from our home studio. Today I'm traveling, so I'm still able to come and teach you guys here at the temple and everyone who's joining us online, either in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. What we do on Wednesdays is I guide you guys in meditation and helping you to learn meditation, and then I open up to any and all questions that you have. This group learning program, each Sunday, I use that first book of the book series that is back there on the back shelf. There's a 13-book book series, and volume 1 is the first book, and each Sunday I go chapter by chapter in that book, helping students to understand the foundational teachings that it takes to be able to move the mind to the enlightened mental state. Gautama Buddha, he taught teachings that are going to guide you to attain enlightenment. And what enlightenment is where the mind is peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. You no longer experience any discontent feelings. By the time you get to enlightenment, you've eliminated all the anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of these discontent feelings and others are eliminated from the mind. You'll notice that there's focus, concentration, clarity, deep memory, that you'll notice your personal and professional relationships really blossom because you're not being bitter and harsh and hostile in your relationships anymore. You've learned and trained your mind not to do that. You'll notice that you're not even in a bad mood anymore because the causes and conditions that produce the bad mood have been uprooted and eliminated out of the mind. So I'd like to welcome all of you guys to our class today. And at the same time, I'm going to invite you to meditate with us. And afterwards, if you'd like to ask any and all questions, you're welcome to. For those of you guys at the temple, you'll need to use the microphones there. And then for anybody who's online, if you're in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, you can put your questions into the comment section and I'll be able to see that. Or if you are in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and then open up your microphone and ask any and all questions that you like. And we'll be able to hear you here in Zoom. We'll be able to hear you at the temple. We'll be able to hear you through the live stream as well. So if you'd like to join for meditation, the way that I start this is I start with some chanting. You'll hear me do the chants throughout the meditation at the very beginning. And if you'd like to join in these chants, you're more than welcome to. For those of you guys that are at the temple, the chants are on a laminated sheet over there on the table, over by the bulletin board. You can get one of those chanting sheets. You're welcome to get one at any point. Go ahead and get up if you like. They're in the Pali language, and you'll see the English translations for them as well. If you look at the English translations, there's a lot of gratitude, a lot of respect, a lot of appreciation for the Buddha, because the students had a lot of respect and gratitude and appreciation for the Buddha because he helped them to understand how to train their mind to be able to get to this enlightened mental state where the mind's peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. These chants that we're going to be doing, there's nothing mystical or magical about these chants. It's not a rite, a ritual, or a ceremony or worship. It's not prayer or anything like this. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory. So once every 2 weeks, the students would come together and they would recite the Buddha's teachings word for word, because there wasn't the ability to write things down during his lifetime. The technology to write things down existed in China, but it didn't exist in that region of the world yet. So the Buddha taught everything orally. And then once every 2 weeks, they would come together and they would recite his teachings word for word for word. And this is how they committed them to memory, is through chanting. If you read the words, you'll see this admiration and appreciation and respect for the Buddha, this gratitude. I suspect that the Buddha didn't actually create these chants himself. They were probably created by his students, either during his life or after his death, because a Buddha doesn't walk around and say, here, chant these things to me to admire me and respect me. But if you learned from a teacher that didn't have any expectation of anything in return from you, and they just, out of the kindness of their heart, helped you to get to this enlightened mental state where the mind's peaceful and joyful, you'd have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that person too. So I suspect that the Buddha's students actually created these either during his life or after his death, because a Buddha doesn't walk around with ego and arrogance. An enlightened being doesn't walk around with ego and arrogance. So he wouldn't have taught people to actually chant these chants to him. So if you'd like to chant along, you're welcome to. I know some of you guys are learning these chants from the various courses and retreats that I've taught these, so you're welcome to chant along. Then in terms of the body positioning for meditation, those of you guys that are sitting on the floor in a chair, this is a common way to do meditation. There's actually 4 positions to meditate in. They're seated, lying, standing, and walking. But oftentimes students will learn in the seated position, either on the floor, in a chair. If you're at home, you might be sitting on a sofa or a bench or a wheelchair or something like this. If you're sitting on the floor or in the chair, I'll give you a bit of guidance to help you. That if you're on the floor, usually put a cushion under your rear. This helps to soften the sitting and helps you to be more comfortable when you're sitting. You'd like your legs to just be lightly crossed. If they're real tight, then it impedes circulation and there tends to be a lot of pain in the legs. Some people even like to put their legs off the mat. They will kind of cross their legs and put them off the mat. So you might decide that you'd like to do that. That gets your hips up in the air and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles. The hands and arms, the Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. So if you would like to do that, you can do that. There's a big picture there at the temple in the back of the room where you can see how the Buddha put his hands. So if you would like to put your hands like that, you can, but this practice isn't about everybody doing it exactly the same way. You might decide to put your palms flat on your thighs or flat on your knees. Some people like to put their palms up, or some people just rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. And the same thing for those of you guys that are sitting in chairs. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles. Some people even sit cross-legged in the chair. So you find whatever is comfortable for you. The lower body and the hands and arms should be nice and relaxed and comfortable. The upper body, this should be erect. By having the upper body erect with the sternum up and the shoulders back, it keeps the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. This will help you to be able to actively train the mind. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would kind of be like dull or lethargic or complacent. But if you were real rigid and uptight, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be in the middle where it's erect, where the sternum is up and the shoulders are back. And this will keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. So again, I'm going to chant to ease us into meditation. And then afterwards, I'll come back in with some guidance to be able to guide you. Then there'll be a period of time where there'll be just quiet and we'll just all be meditating together. Everyone at the temple and everyone anywhere else on the internet that is joining us. You'll probably hear certain sounds here and there because it's not possible to be in an environment where it's just completely quiet. So there at the temple, I'm sure you'll hear maybe a dog barking or a bird chirping, or you might hear a car going by or something like that. But these sounds are all impermanent. You can train your mind not to be annoyed or frustrated, realizing that the environment is going to have sounds occasionally. You can't be in an environment where it's permanently quiet. It's just not possible. So as you hear any kind of sounds or anything like that, you'll hear the guidance during the meditation that you can just bring your mind back to the breath. And then after that quiet period where we're meditating together, then we'll come out of the meditation with some more chanting, which once again, you're welcome to join if you like. So if you'd like to join for meditation, I'll go ahead and start with the chanting. And if you'd like to join along in the chanting, you're welcome to, and then I'll come back in with some guidance. Arahang Samma Sambuddhassa วันนังอภิวาเตมิสวากขาโตมหาเควตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเควโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินับโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิโตอนุเตโรปุริสาดัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังโพโตภาควาติ Okay, with the lower body comfortable and the arms and hands relaxed, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled. Just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathe in gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Once the breath is well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมะคะวะโหตังมหาคะวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาคะวะตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารนังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิโตอนุเตโรปุริสาดัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังโหโตภาควาติ If you'd like to slowly ease your way out of meditation, once again, I'd like to welcome all of you guys, whether you're joining at the temple or you're joining anywhere else over the internet. Welcome to everyone who's here. Welcome to those of you guys that joined us since we first started meditating. For those of you guys at the temple, if you're new to the temple, I'd like to just make you aware of a few things to be able to help you. The temple has a bathroom in the very back of the room, the very last door on the right. There's a restroom there. You're welcome to use that at any point. If you'd like to get up and use that, feel free to make yourself comfortable. There's even restrooms outside. There's a main temple bathroom that if you go outside the classroom and follow the signs in the parking lot, it'll take you around to the main temple bathroom. And then there's even water and snacks over there on the left, or my left, your right, that is provided by our students. So if you'd like to help yourself to any water or snacks or anything like that, you're welcome to help yourself to any of those things. So as I mentioned today, our group learning program, what I do with students is I guide you in meditation, and then I open up to any and all questions that you guys might have. I'll share with you guys a little taste of Gautama Buddha's teaching so you'll understand a little bit. And then if you'd like to ask any questions, whether you're at the temple or whether you're online, you can ask questions. All you need to do is electronically raise your hand in Zoom if you're in Zoom, and then you'll need to unmute yourself through Zoom in order to be able to ask any questions. For those of you guys on Facebook or YouTube, or Zoom, you can also put your questions in the comment section. I'll be able to see that and answer your questions. For those of you guys at the temple, if you would like to ask a question or any follow-up questions, there's microphones in the white bowl in the middle of the room. If you get one of those microphones, you just press the gray button on the microphone and the lights will come on. You just hold it up to your chin and you'll be able to speak, and we'll be able to hear you here. I'll be able to hear you, and then they'll be able to hear you throughout the live stream, and as well. And you can keep those microphones with you because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question. So you can use the microphone at any time and share it with the people around you. So the teachings of Gautama Buddha, as I was mentioning at the beginning, are to guide you to be able to attain the enlightened mental state. Enlightenment is where the mind has been trained to be peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. This is a permanent mental state. By the time you've trained your mind to get to enlightenment, it's impossible for you to become angry or sad or frustrated or irritated or annoyed or any of these other discontent feelings. Oftentimes, when we lack wisdom, we think that these discontent feelings are being caused by other people. You might think that your mom or dad are making you angry, or your brothers and sisters are frustrating you or irritating you. You might think your boss is annoying you or something like that. But this isn't actually true. The mind is actually causing its own discontent feelings, and you can learn this through the teachings of the Buddha, and you can independently verify how your mind is actually causing these feelings itself. And because the mind is causing these feelings itself, you can actually train the mind to eliminate them. If it was everybody else that was causing you to be angry or frustrated or sad or any of these other discontent feelings, you would have no ability to ever eliminate it, because it's only a matter of time before somebody does something and you'd become angry or annoyed or frustrated, and you might feel like you need to go off into the world and train other people how to do things your way. And this is what the unenlightened mind typically does with the lack of wisdom, is you might put your expectations on people and try to force them and control them to do things your way. You've probably been in arguments before where you've been adamantly arguing with somebody, trying to convince them that they needed to change what they were doing because it was making you angry. Well, you can't train 8 billion people in the world to do things a certain way. It's just not possible. So in order to get to peace and joy that is permanent, you need to be able to train your mind. And that starts with understanding what's actually causing the discontent feelings and why the mind is experiencing discontentedness. So the very first teaching of the Buddha, it's called the Four Noble Truths. This is a teaching that you learn through his teachings. You learn it through learning from a teacher or books or videos or things like this. You then reflect on it to independently verify it. This is where you can look at the teachings and reflect through your own direct experiences to see that it is true. And then you start practicing his teachings. And as you're practicing his teachings, you're training your mind. You're eliminating the causes and conditions that are producing these discontent feelings. Namely, what's causing the discontent feelings is what we call craving, desire, attachment. There's this longing, yearning, this chasing after the objects of your affection, where the mind thinks that if I can just get this thing, then everything will be perfect in my life. So you might notice that your mind chases and chases and chases and chases. It's like an unquenchable thirst. It's like the mind longing, yearning, and pulling towards the objects of your affection. So if you're feeling sad or lonely or bored or something like this, your mind might be longing, yearning, and chasing food or clothing or jewelry or money or a new job or more friends or a boyfriend or girlfriend. The mind thinks that if I can just get this boyfriend or girlfriend, everything in my life will be perfect. Or if I can just get that new jewelry, or if I can just get more money or something like this, the mind longs and yearns and chases after things. And then if you get what you want, then the mind experiences pleasant feelings. It gets happy, it gets excited, it gets elated, it gets thrilled. But then if you don't get what you want, the mind gets sad or angry or frustrated or some other painful feeling. So the unenlightened mind is going up and down because it's basing its inner feelings on some condition. So for example, if you wake up in the morning and you notice that it's sunny outside, you might get really excited and really happy. But then when it changes and everything around you is impermanent, so it's going to change. It's not going to be sunny always. So it's eventually going to start raining. So if you get happy and excited when it's sunny, that means that feeling is based on the condition of the sun. And because the sun is impermanent, that means when it changes, your mind's going to experience the painful feelings. You can't experience permanent happiness as long as you're basing your inner feelings on some condition. So that's why if you chase money for a while, you'll get to a point where maybe you're making, say, $30,000 a year. And now when you're making that amount of money, you're so happy. But then 3 months, 6 months, a year later, that fades away. And now you want 40 or 50,000. And now you chase that and chase that and chase that and chase that. And then once you get it, you get happy for a period of time. but then it fades away, because the happiness that you're experiencing now in the unenlightened state, it's temporary, it's impermanent. It arises, it changes, and it fades away because it's based on some condition. So this is why when you get together with a boyfriend or girlfriend, you're so happy and so excited when you first get together, because this new thing, the mind was craving and longing and yearning to have a boyfriend or girlfriend in your life. And now when you have that person in your life, you feel so happy. You know, when you first get together, you're going to the movies, you're going to the park, you're going to the mall, you're going out to dinner, you might be having intimate contact with each other, maybe having some great, wonderful conversations together. This relationship couldn't be more perfect from the beginning, because you don't have any expectations. You don't have any craving or longing or yearning or wanting things. The only thing you're interested in is getting to know this person. So you start having this relationship and everything feels so great at the beginning. But then as time goes on, your expectations grow and the other person's expectations grow, the things you want from them and the things they want from you. And more, you guys can't be happy together because they can't meet your expectations permanently. And you can't meet their expectations permanently because of impermanence. So now the relationship becomes more disgruntled. There's maybe anger or sadness or frustration or annoyance in the relationship, stress or anxiety. So now you guys break up and you split up. And now the mind is really discontent, right? There's anger, or you might be missing this person, or you might feel lonely or bored. It's not love that's causing these feelings. Oftentimes people think that because you love this person, that's why you're feeling these feelings. But love is this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, where you have active goodwill towards all beings. And love doesn't cause anger and sadness. What's causing the anger and the sadness and all these other discontent feelings is the mind is holding on. The mind is craving and longing, yearning. It's holding on to this person, wanting them to be permanent in your life. But if you look around you, everything is impermanent. The physical body, this is impermanent. It's constantly changing. The weather is constantly changing. Your bank account is constantly changing. It's going up and down and up and down. The weather is impermanent. It's constantly changing. But the mind craves permanence. It wants things to be permanent. And as long as the mind's doing that, you can only be happy when you get what you want because of the craving, desire, attachment. So the more expectations you have, the more wants that you have, the less and less and less and less amount of time that you can be happy. Because the way that the unenlightened mind works is certain conditions have to be met in order to be happy. You know, if the weather is this, if my bank account is this, if my boss does this, if my mom and dad do this, just on and on and on and on, an endless list. And the more of those things that you have in your mind, the less and less and less and less amount of time that you can actually be happy. And when the mind is getting angry and frustrated and agitated, what you will do when you lack wisdom of what's truly going on in the mind is you will falsely attribute those painful feelings that you're having to somebody else. You will adamantly believe that somebody else is causing you to be angry or frustrated. And now what you will do is you will push that person away, thinking that that solves the problem. You'll either push the person away or you'll push the situation away. This is called aversion. Or the other thing you might do when you lack wisdom is you might be bitter and harsh and hostile towards people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring and showing its teeth at this other person, trying to fear them into doing things your way. So you might talk harsh and bitter and hostile towards people. And this just damages your relationships. And then the third thing that you do is you might put your expectations on people and trying to control them or force them to do things your way. So as long as the mind is not understanding what is the true problem, which is within your own mind, you'll keep pushing people away. And you can see that that doesn't solve the problem because you just get angry and irritated or annoyed about something else. If this person was the problem, when you push them away, your mind would be peaceful and joyful permanently. But because that isn't the problem, when you push those people away, it's only a matter of time before you become agitated or annoyed or frustrated about something else. You haven't actually solved the problem. You haven't solved your anger and sadness. You've just pushed somebody away and broken relationship. And when you're bitter and harsh and hostile to somebody through your intentions, speech, and actions, you haven't solved your problem there either, because that person will probably leave out of your life. They're not interested in being around you. Or at the very least, you'll have people around you that are stressed and having anxiety and fearful of you. Or if you've been putting your expectations on people and trying to control them to do things your way, again, people feel pressured and they feel like they're forcing them to do things a certain way, and they're not interested in being around that. So if you're doing this currently, this is normal for the unenlightened mind because it lacks wisdom. You don't have to feel guilty or shameful that these things are going on, because every unenlightened being is experiencing these kinds of things. But there is a solution for you. There is an escape. There's a way to get out of this constant cycle of experiencing broken relationships over and over and over again. But you just need the wisdom of how to do that. And that's where the teachings of the Buddha comes in. What a Buddha does is they train their mind to be able to get to this enlightened mental state where the mind's peaceful and joyful by themselves, without the help of any teachers or any guides. And then they dedicate the rest of their life to sharing those independently discovered teachings with others. And then they preserve their teachings in such a way that countless people can get to enlightenment after their death. So a Buddha discovers the path to enlightenment by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides. They then dedicate the rest of their life to sharing their independently discovered teachings, and countless people get to enlightenment during that person's lifetime. And then they preserve their teachings so countless more people can get to enlightenment after their death. So the Buddha's already done the hard work of figuring out what it takes in order to get to enlightenment. And if you're interested in getting to the peace and joy that is permanent, where you've trained your mind and uprooted the causes and conditions that are producing those discontent feelings, then all you need to do is be able to gradually learn and reflect on the teachings to independently verify them and practice them. And I share this book series of 13 books. They're all over there on the bookshelf at the temple. They're also available on the website for free. You can download them at no cost. You can take them and go print them. You can get printed versions on Amazon if you have access to Amazon in your country, or you can get printed versions there at the temple. And by slowly starting with the first book, and you gradually learn through the first book, and then coming to these classes, courses, and retreats that I offer that are all available at no cost, you're welcome to gradually learn the teachings that it takes to be able to get to enlightenment. You need teachers, you need guides. Because you're not a Buddha, you wouldn't be able to do this by yourself. You would need people to help you. So that's what a Buddhist teacher is they're kind of like a tour guide that's helping you. They're pointing out the things that you need to learn and helping you to grow and develop. And that's what these classes are about. That on Sundays and Wednesdays, I get together with students to help them build a foundation of the path to enlightenment. So on Sundays, I go through that first book chapter by chapter. This Sunday, we're going to be in chapter 13. We're about in the middle of the group learning program, but you can really join at any time. You don't have to start at the beginning. And this group learning program starts over every 7 months. We start from the very beginning. So no matter where you are in the world, you can join, whether you're at the temple or you're online, you can join to gradually learn and understand the teachings that it takes. And everything's available for you at no cost. Not only do I teach on Sundays and Wednesdays, but I teach on Saturdays. And I even have courses and retreats all throughout the month and all throughout the year that I'm typically at the temple live streaming those. There's a live audience there, and then I'm usually live streaming them as well. So even if you're traveling or going other places, you can join in through Zoom, through Facebook, through YouTube, or any of these other ways. And then it's also recorded. So if you can't even make the live classes, you can record it. So if you're willing to put forth the effort and energy and the determination and dedication to train your mind and escape from these discontent feelings, there's help that's here and it's available for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn over the class to all of you to be able to ask any and all questions that you like. As I mentioned, for those of you guys at the temple, if you would like to ask questions, there's microphones there in the white bowl, and all you need to do is press the gray button and the lights will come on, and you just hold it up to your chin and we'll be able to hear you throughout the live stream, throughout the temple, and everything. We'll all be able to hear you. If you talked without a microphone, nobody would be able to hear you. For those of you guys online, if you're in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, you can put your questions into the comment section and I'll be able to see that and answer your question. And for those of you guys in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and then unmute your mic and ask any and all questions that you like. So I'll turn things over to you guys to see if you have any questions, and including you guys at the temple, you guys will need to unmute yourself if you guys would like to ask any questions. So does anybody have any questions that you'd like to ask about the teachings of the Buddha or meditation, or any struggles or challenges you're having in life, or anything that you're seeing related to the teachings of the Buddha, you can ask any and all questions that you like. Okay, it looks like Rachel has a question. Go ahead, ma'am.
Hi, good morning, David and everybody. I have a question on book volume 1. There is a section called Techniques to Eliminate Conceit. Now there is a bullet point that says, do tasks that you feel are beneath you. What does beneath mean? How to understand this sentence? I didn't get it.
Sure. What that means is like, say like you think that mopping the floor is beneath you and like you're better than that. And, you're not going to, mop the floor because you think like that's a menial task that only people below you or lower than you would do. If the mind's thinking that way, that's the conceit, that's the arrogance, that's the pride, that's the mind having ego. So one of the ways to train the mind to not have ego and putting yourself above people is to do tasks that you think are beneath you. That's what we say, is that if you mop the floor, it's putting the mind in the situation where you can just view yourself as an equal. That by the time you get to enlightenment, there's not this pecking order in your mind. Like right now in the unenlightened state, as long as there's conceit in the mind, you might think there are certain people above you and there are certain people below you. And when you put yourself above people, you're going to talk down to people in an arrogant, egotistical way, and you're going to damage your relationships. But if you put yourself below people, this is just as damaging to your mind too, because your mind's shaken up and you feel like, you can't be calm, like when you're around your boss maybe, or if you're around a famous celebrity or politician, if you think you're below this person, you'll have difficulties. Or if you're in a social situation, you might be going to a party or to a social event and trying to figure out who's above me and who's below me. And when the mind's doing this, it gets obsessed or it has difficulties and challenges because you can't just be relaxed and comfortable with everybody around you, seeing yourself as equal, because the mind's looking for this pecking order, almost like in the animal realm, where in the animal realm, you need a pecking order. You need to know who's the alpha male and female of your wolf pack. You need to know in the elephant herd, who's the matriarch of our herd, because these individuals are going to show you how to survive. If you didn't know who the matriarch of your elephant herd was, you wouldn't be able to know where the migration paths are, the watering holes, where to eat, and things like this. So when you put yourself above and below people, you can't reside harmoniously with all beings. But by doing tasks like mopping the floor or other things like this you might think are below you, it puts the mind in the situation that it doesn't want to be in. It doesn't want to see itself as being equal, in that it's just a normal average human being. So when you put your mind in that situation, slowly but surely, it gradually trains the mind like, hey, you're just a normal person like everyone else. You can clean the toilet, you can clean the bathroom, you can mop the floor, you can wash dishes. If there's things like this that you find that are your mind thinks is beneath you, you would like to do those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so likewise, can I also extend this sentence to like I shall also do tasks that I feel are above me. For example, if I go to a luxury store and I feel, okay, this is not my place, I am quite timid or hesitant to go into, or a fancy hotel or a fancy restaurant.
Exactly.
Or a fancy resort.
Exactly, because the mind, if it's uncomfortable in any situation, there's some craving, desire, attachment there. And one of the ways to eliminate that is to put the mind in the situation that it doesn't want to be in. So oftentimes the mind, when it's holding on, it thinks if I push this situation away, that solves my problem. But it doesn't, because that's aversion, and the mind continues to hold on to the craving. So yeah, if you like have like a handbag store that's like every handbag is like $500, and you know that there's like no way you can buy a handbag worth $500, you should go into that store. And if your mind feels uncomfortable there, you're going to need to do that multiple times until the mind lets go. Or maybe, if, like you said, a fancy restaurant, maybe you don't buy anything, but you just go in and you look around and you maybe, just use the bathroom, or you sit in the lobby of the hotel or something like this. And this helps your mind to let go of any conceit of putting yourself below, where you can just see yourself as equal, that you're not better than anyone else, but you're not worse than anyone else either, that we're all just equal. But the unenlightened mind doesn't want to do that. It wants to put itself above or below people. And this is problematic in your relationships, whether they're personal or professional. It's just going to cause you problems, and you're not going to be able to live harmoniously with all beings.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. It's helpful. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Pleased to help you. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, it looks like Watung you guys have a question. Go ahead.
So I was just wondering that since the teaching is about impermanent, nothing lasts forever, does the Buddhism teaching is also impermanent?
The teachings, like in the book and people's memories of them and things like that, they are impermanent. This is why during the lifetime of the Buddha, the teachings were very strong and very vibrant, shining in the world. But then over the last 2,500 years, they've gradually degraded because people's memories and the books and things like this, because of impermanence, we've gotten to this low point in society where very few people understand the teachings of the Buddha. The Buddha talked about this during his lifetime, that his teachings would essentially disappear within 2,500 years of his death. And then there would be this effort to restore the teachings back into the world. So the people's memories and the books and things like this, yes, those are impermanent. But in terms of the natural laws that the Buddha taught, he taught these natural laws. That's what you're doing when we talk about awakening to the wisdom. In order to get to enlightenment, you're gradually learning, reflecting to independently verify, and you're practicing. These natural laws that he taught 2,500 years ago, those are not impermanent. They are permanent. All the material things around you are impermanent. That's what's called a conditioned object. But then there's something called an unconditioned object, which an unconditioned object that arises, changes, and fades away. It's impermanent. And everything around you that you see, everything you hear, everything you smell, everything that comes in contact with the tongue, any physical objects that come in contact with the body, or any thoughts or ideas that are going through the mind, these things are all impermanent. But enlightenment itself and the natural laws that the Buddha explained during his lifetime, those are actually unconditioned objects. They don't arise, they don't change, and they don't fade away. So if you can learn the original teachings of the Buddha using his original words, which this book series that I share has his original words, you can learn his original teachings, and then you don't believe those teachings. There's no belief in the teachings of the Buddha. There's no rites or rituals or ceremonies or worship. You might have seen these things attributed to the Buddha. If you've been to various Buddhist centers, people might be doing rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, prayer, and they might be calling those the teachings of the Buddha, but they're not. Or they might have had certain beliefs that they things that they were just believing. And this isn't the teachings of the Buddha. He didn't have any of that. He didn't have rules or commandments. He didn't have those things either. What he's doing is he's explaining to you these natural laws. He's explaining to you the way your mind works. And then he's inviting you to investigate and examine his teachings. And as you investigate and examine them through your intellectual learning, through your reflection to independently verify whether they're true or false, and then by integrating them into your life to practice the teachings through training your mind, you will be able to see slowly but surely as you eliminate these pollutions in your mind that the peace and the joy arises in the mind. Because the Buddha discovered 10 individual pollutions in the mind. He refers to them as the 10 fetters. He uses the word fetter because during ancient times, when prisoners were confined to a certain area, they would attach a fetter to their leg. It's like a shackle and a chain and a ball that goes around your leg, because they would just have an open field. Where nowadays we put prisoners in a jail cell, where back then they were just in an open field with this fetter attached to their leg. It's a shackle, a chain, and a ball. And that would keep them trapped and confined in that certain area. So the Buddha discovered these 10 fetters that keep the mind trapped in the unenlightened state. And when you learn what these fetters are through these natural laws, you can then learn the tools and techniques to uproot them out of the mind. And then you'll be able to see the improvement to the condition of the mind. Because you know, in situations where you're angry or sad or frustrated or annoyed or any of these other discontent feelings, and when those same situations are happening and you don't experience those feelings anymore, you'll know that it's these teachings that are gradually helping you to uproot the causes and conditions that are producing these discontent feelings, and you'll see your mind becoming more and more peaceful. So while people's memories and the books and things like this are impermanent, the natural laws themselves that it takes in order to awaken to enlightenment, those are permanent. And this is the whole reason why the mind is having the struggles and difficulties that it does in day-to-day life. If you're experiencing anger and frustration and sadness and all these other things, the reason why it's struggling and having difficulties like stress and anxiety is because it lacks wisdom. If you cultivate wisdom, then you'll be able to get to the point where your mind is able to make wise decisions and it's been well trained, and you don't experience any anger or sadness or frustration or anything like that any longer. But as long as you have this lack of wisdom in the mind, oftentimes it's referred to as ignorance or delusion or confusion, misunderstanding, misperception. I tend to use the phrase the unknowing of true reality, that as long as the mind lacks wisdom or has this unknowing of true reality where you firmly believe that other people are causing you to be angry, when you firmly believe that, you will never become happy permanently because your mind doesn't understand what the actual problem is. So therefore, you're not applying the actual solutions and the techniques to actually solve it. You'll just keep pushing people away, being bitter, harsh, and hostile, and putting expectations on people. But with belief, you don't know what's true or false, because with belief, you're just believing it because either you convinced yourself to believe it or somebody else convinced you to believe it. So in that situation where you're believing something, your mind can be shaken up. It will waver. But when you know the truth and you have wisdom, there's no way anybody can ever shake you off of that truth because you know with 100% certainty that this thing is true. So what the Buddha is teaching you is teachings that help you understand the mind, help you understand the world around you. And this hasn't changed since his lifetime because it's a unconditioned object. It's a natural laws that he described, and they don't arise, change, or fade away. You can cultivate that wisdom, apply it in your life, and then you'll see the results that your mind is becoming more and more peaceful and joyful. And ultimately, you can get to the enlightened mental state where it's just always peaceful and always joyful.
I have another question because, like, a lot of times people are talking about detachment, right? You're detached from all the things you wanting or you desire. But to detach is also to want, right? You want to be detached. That's also a desire. So, like, I find it a little bit contradictory.
Yeah, this is a misunderstanding that some people have in the world, and it sounds like you've run across that misunderstanding, is that people think that this is a desire. So there's craving, desire, attachment, which is the mind holding on really tightly, right? That's the craving, desire, attachment. But then there's the other side of this where the mind's just lackadaisical and could care less about what's happening in the world. The mind is indifferent. That's either side of the spectrum. And you're not interested in either side of that spectrum. What you would like to do is come to the middle. And that's what the Buddha taught. So you can pursue enlightenment as a goal, as an objective, or an interest. You can have the aspiration to work towards the elimination of craving, desire, attachment, where your mind's not longing and yearning for enlightenment. Your mind's not longing and yearning for elimination of attachment, but instead you're just gradually working towards this goal, objective, or interest. And that's where the middle way is, and the mind can gradually pursue that. But as long as you don't know how to do that, then the mind might perceive things like this as a desire or a longing or a yearning, because the unenlightened mind doesn't see this middle way very clearly. It doesn't really see it. That's what a Buddha is helping people to see. What the unenlightened mind knows how to do is pursue things out of craving, desire, attachment. So if you want a new job or a career or more money or a boyfriend or girlfriend, what the mind in the unenlightened state does is it chases and chases and chases. And that's pretty much all it knows how to do. When it's not chasing something, it's usually all the way on the other side where it's dull and lethargic and complacent. And that's what the unenlightened mind does, is it swings from side to side. And it doesn't know this middle way where the calmness and the peacefulness and the joy is. So you can work towards things as a goal, objective, or interest, where with a craving, desire, attachment, you can only be happy if you get what you want. And if you don't get what you want, you'll be angry or sad or frustrated. But if you develop the ability to pursue things as a goal, objective, or interest, or an aspiration, if you acquire that particular thing, then you're fine with that. And if you don't acquire it, that's okay too. But you don't form your inner feelings based on the acquisition of that thing. So you just need to be able to understand the difference between a craving, desire, attachment versus a goal, objective, or interest, and gradually working towards something. And where that comes to is, when you learn it from me, hearing this, but then also you need to practice it and learn how to pursue things and maintain your contentedness and your joy, whether you acquire that particular thing or not. And it's also helpful to understand that the attachment that we're talking about, it's not the object, like this mobile phone or this computer or these clothes. That's not the attachment. The attachment is inside the mind. It's the longing and yearning for the object. So you don't need to eliminate the phone. You don't need to eliminate the computer. You don't need to eliminate your relationships or your jewelry or things like this. You can, but you don't have to. There's the ability to get to enlightenment where you still have certain material possessions that you need in life. And now you just train your mind to not long and yearn for these things. But notice that I said the word need, because oftentimes what we do in the unenlightened state is we chase the wants, right? Like maybe the iPhone 15 comes out and the mind really wants the iPhone 15 and it chases and chases and chases and chases. Well, it's got an iPhone 14. Why does it need to upgrade to the iPhone 15? There isn't necessarily a need for that. But because of the mind's craving, desire, attachment, it will just want more and more and more and more. So you're going to need to be really good at observing, what do I need versus what are my wants? Because as long as you're chasing your wants, it'll be very expensive for you. It's very expensive to have craving, desire, attachment, and you'll be exhausted. At the end of your day, you'll get home and you'll feel completely exhausted because the mind is just chasing and chasing and chasing. And it keeps having to chase after this unquenchable thirst that it never quite fulfills. So it's the longing, yearning in the mind that you're looking to eliminate and not necessarily the object itself.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, we have some questions coming in on YouTube as well. Let's see. It says, "Good morning. I'm Iris. When I focus on breathing, I can still notice everything around, but people who are good at meditation are not disturbed by these things. I want to understand the difference." Okay, Iris. So when someone's first training their mind, it's usually bombarded with a lot of thoughts that you just have thought. Or you might have a thought and you indulge in that thought and you follow it for a period of time. Or like you're saying, you can hear certain things around, or there can be certain thoughts that go through the mind and you can be distracted from that. That's because the mind is untrained and it's still holding on. Keep in mind that the goal of this meditation, it's not to eliminate your thoughts. The goal is to notice your thoughts sooner and sooner. And when the thoughts arise, to be able to cut them off easier and easier and let them go. But that's not going to be easy when you first start. It's going to take you many months and even years to build up your meditation practice. So don't compare yourself to other people. This is part of the conceit or the ego, where you might look at other people and say, oh, they're so peaceful in meditation and I'm not. So therefore, they're good at meditation and I'm bad at meditation. This is the mind judging itself and judging other people. Instead, you would like to get away from that. You would like to get to the point where you don't do that comparison and you don't even judge your meditation as a good meditation or a bad meditation. Every meditation is beneficial, no matter how long you did it for, no matter what you experienced during the meditation. Every single meditation is beneficial. If you sit in meditation and your mind is bombarded with thoughts the entire time, and you get to the end of the meditation and you're like, oh my goodness, my mind is so bombarded with thoughts, that was a beneficial meditation. Because now you have the insight and the wisdom to know that your mind is really bombarded with thoughts and it needs more training and it needs more discipline. And as each one of those thoughts came up, you had to let them go and let them go and let them go. And that's what you're training your mind to do, because with craving, desire, attachment, the mind will hold on to things and it'll want it to be permanent. It'll hold on very tightly because it can't let go. That's why when you're with that boyfriend or girlfriend and the relationship was over, you were angry and frustrated for a period of time because the mind just couldn't let go. But then at a certain point, you're like, you know what? If he wants to be with another person, so be it. Or if she wants to be with another person, so be it. Or if she wants to move to another part of the world, so be it. And you mind let them go. And that's where the peace and the joy came in. But the unenlightened mind doesn't know how to let go. It doesn't know that. So it grabs on and grabs on and grabs on. So you will notice certain challenges in your meditation practice. You're not going to be an expert in meditation from the very beginning. You won't even be an expert the first month or the second month or the third month or the 6th month. It's going to take gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress to gradually develop the mind and train the mind. But this is a challenge. This is a certain struggle that you're going to face as you train your mind, that it's going to be challenging. But as you do, your condition of your mind will get better and better. And it's a permanent solution that once you train your mind to get to this enlightened mental state, it's a permanent mental state. So one way that I describe the path to enlightenment is it's the last struggle of all struggles. You will have challenges along the way, but you've got people like me and you've got other people in our community that can help you. And as you're facing those struggles, you just reach out and we're here to help you. But as you work through each one of these obstacles with your meditation or any other aspect of your practice, this is a permanent solution. The other option is to just stay in the anger and the sadness and the frustration for the rest of your life, which you don't actually have to do. You can choose to eliminate the causes and conditions that are producing this. Oftentimes we think as human beings that we have to be angry or we have to be sad, and it's just normal. Sometimes people think it's love that's causing the anger and the sadness and the frustration, or some people think it's their care, that because I care about this person, I'm getting angry. That's not true. That's part of the delusion or the misunderstanding or the confusion or the lack of wisdom, that it's not these things, that you can actually care about somebody and not get angry. You can love somebody and not get frustrated or agitated. It's not the love that's causing these kinds of things. So as you're experiencing meditation, just know that you're a work in progress, and it's going to be gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress, and you just gradually chip away at it each day. So Iris has another question here. And when I meditate, I don't see anything. Are people who are good at meditation able to immerse themselves in other images, sounds during their practice? The people who have been practicing meditation for a long time, that's what we'll say, okay? Rather than think about good or bad, because this is just the mind judging. But the people who've been meditating for a long time and have been doing it properly in the way that the Buddha taught, their mind will be quite peaceful and joyful during their meditation. They will have occasional thoughts during their meditation, but they'll notice it right away and they'll be able to cut it off and let it go right away. So even when you're enlightened, you will still have thoughts, right? And you're going to need to cut that off and let it go. The goal of meditation isn't to see images. It's not to hear sounds. It's not to, think about all the things that you're going to do today, right? That's not what meditation is about. You're not sitting there trying to think about anything. Instead, you're sitting there focused on the breath, developing your concentration to be able to focus on the breath. And then whenever the mind moves off the breath, you cut that off and let it go and bring the mind back to the breath. So this is training your mind to let go, let go, let go, eliminating craving, desire, attachment. It's also training the mind to cultivate the wholesome qualities of mindfulness or awareness of mind and the wholesome qualities of concentration to be able to be focused and concentrated. Because you're going to need the awareness of mind, your mindfulness, and your concentration to be able to train the mind on the path to enlightenment. And you're going to need to train your mind to let go. So the goal isn't to hear sounds or see images or anything like that. The goal is to focus on the breath. And whenever the mind moves off, because it will, easily cut that off and let it go. But it's going to take many months and even years to develop that. So people who have been meditating for a long-term period and meditating in the way that the Buddha taught, they will easily see the thought. They'll be able to easily cut it off and let it go and bring the mind back to the breath. And then there's going to be these long periods of time where the mind's still and quiet, but you're still going to have occasional thoughts. Even when the mind's enlightened, you're going to have those. So this is what a person who has had a lot of experience meditating, and you're going to need to be patient and understand you're a work in progress. It's going to take time to gradually build up to that. Okay, let me know what other questions you guys have, whether you're online in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. You can put that into the comment section, or if you're in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and ask any questions that you like. So a person here on Facebook has a question. His name is Grayson. It's pretty long, so I'm going to go ahead and read it for you guys. The cycle of rebirth clearly underscores all of the Buddha's teachings, but I have a really hard time understanding rebirth as truth. I suppose it's my Western upbringing making the concept very difficult to wrap my head around. The various realms of existence are difficult for me to wrap my head around too, but I'm able to push that out of my mind for now as it isn't referenced often. Rebirth in general is mentioned frequently throughout Volume 1 of the text. Should I have a strong understanding of the cycle of rebirth as truth by now? Should I just try to let this go and focus on continuing to develop my practice? I've only been practicing these teachings for about 2 months. I've only been following you for 1 month. Thank you for your feedback. Okay, Grayson. So what I suggest people to do when they first get started and you're first getting started is to set the cycle of rebirth to the side. That understand that that is part of what the Buddha taught, but there's a time and a place to approach that, and it's not at the beginning of your practice. There are ways to independently verify that the cycle of rebirth is 100% true. You don't have the wisdom of how to do that right now, but as you learn and grow and develop on the path, you'll be able to cultivate that wisdom of how to independently verify it. And I share that in volume 11, chapter 105. There's the content there that's going to help you to understand how to independently verify the cycle of rebirth. If there's an overwhelming urge to see that now, feel free to go look. But you could also just let that go and focus on the core central teachings, which is the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, the 5 Precepts, meditation training, and things like this. That first book that you're reading, that has the core central teachings in there, and that's what you would like to stick with for many, many months. The volume 11, chapter 105, it's in there for a reason. Out of the 13 book series, it's in volume 11 for a reason, because it's something that people usually approach after 1.5 years, even 2 years, after they've been learning and growing and developing on the path. So this cycle of rebirth, the Buddha taught it for a reason, because as you're training your mind and you're uprooting the pollution out of your mind, there's the potential for you to observe your past lives. And if you start having these vivid memories of your past lives and you didn't understand that these were past lives, it could really shake you up. So say you have vivid memories of being murdered, right? And you know that wasn't this life. Or say you have these vivid memories of, maybe being sexually assaulted or something like this. If you were having these memories and they were constantly reoccurring in your mind, this could shake you up. So this is one reason why the Buddha taught the cycle of rebirth. Also, the 5 realms of existence, you might actually come in contact with beings from these 5 realms. Like you might start hearing voices and having communication from these realms. And if you didn't understand that these are beings from other realms, you might think you're going crazy or you're schizophrenic or something like this. Or some people can actually see beings from these other realms. So if you're able to see hell beings or afflicted spirits, which are ghosts, or you can see heavenly beings, you could be really shaken up if you didn't understand this is the way the world is. So the teachings of the Buddha, he's not explaining the way the world should be. And if everybody, follows these rules and commandments, then the world will become a peaceful place. He's explaining the way the world is. He's helping you to understand the natural world around you, so that now, understanding with that wisdom of how the world is, your mind can reside more peaceful and joyful in the world. So he taught the cycle of rebirth, and he taught how to train your mind. And as you're eliminating this pollution and you start either observing your past lives, you start having communication with beings of other realms, or you start seeing these beings, you can reside peaceful and joyful because you just understand it's normal. It's a normal occurrence. But if you didn't understand these things were normal, you could be really shaken up when you experience these things. So the cycle of rebirth is something that you can approach later in your development. I do get into it a little bit in chapter 22 in that first book, just to kind of introduce you to it. And as you say, I mention it every once in a while here and there, but it's really volume 11 that really brings out the cycle of rebirth the most. And like I mentioned, it's volume 11 for a reason, because you need to really develop all your other understanding of the path before you really approach that. It's a better time to do it later, after you've developed the core understanding of the core teachings first. So thank you for your question there, Grayson. Okay, there's another question here coming in on YouTube. And if you guys have any questions at the temple, you guys are welcome to let me know as well. Lily has some questions here. It says, "Hi, David. I've been studying with you for 3 months. Your teachings is very helpful and valuable, but it is in English. I'm wondering if it is okay to try to translate your teachings into Chinese and share them with Chinese social media." Absolutely. You're more than welcome to translate the book. In fact, it's been translated into Arabic. It's been translated into Spanish. There was some people working on it in Chinese, but I haven't heard back from them. So maybe they just kept it to themselves. But if you would like to work on translating it into Chinese, feel free. And if you get a really good quality translation and you would like to share it with me, I'll put it on our website, and I'll even put it online on Amazon so that people can get access to it. And I'll even have them at the temple so people who are learning Chinese or who know Chinese can learn with the book in Chinese as well. Because the more languages that we have the teachings of the Buddha in, the better, because more and more people can learn and practice. If you need my help as you're doing the translations, you're more than welcome to reach out to me by private message, because sometimes there's like certain words like mindfulness or meditation or things like this that aren't necessarily in a particular language. Like when it was going into Arabic and Spanish, there were certain words that just didn't exist in those languages. So we needed to come up with certain variations, because you like to have a standard way of referring to all these different things. I suspect that Chinese language probably has more words in line with Buddhist teachings than maybe Spanish or Arabic, because the Buddhist teachings have been in China for a while, where like in the Muslim world, in Arabic world, Middle East, they didn't really have many of the words like meditation and mindfulness and things like this didn't really exist. So we needed to figure out a solution for that. So you're always welcome to reach out to me and I will help you. And if you would like the original files, I can send you the original file, because I use Mac Pages, and I can send it to you and you're able to use the original file if you like. And then I will help you along the way as you need help. Lily's asking some more. Maybe she has a comment here. Exactly. Great. I'll check with you from time to time just to make sure that I use the correct words and I understand your teachings correctly. Thank you so much, David. You're welcome, Lily. Pleased to help you. Okay, it looks like there's a question at Wateng Yu. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for your teaching and good morning. So this is actually my second time meditating. Like I firstly meditated a couple years ago. It was introduced to me by a friend. It was a method by Taoism. I encountered the very same situation in these two meditation, and I have no really religious background, and this is my first time enter a Buddha temple. So, and I meditate with my friend, and like an hour ago, we were meditating for 5 to 10 minutes, and I think I see or I perceive some image. It's like a golden ball in the void, and it reflects some parts of my brain, like in the forehead, and I see the light of rays, and I feel like a really weird feeling inside of me. I cannot explain it. So I wonder if this is a common thing for meditators, or was it recorded in any Buddhist teaching? And I just want to explore more about this. Thank you so much.
Sure, you're welcome. Yeah, this is normal that you'll see different images. You'll have different visualizations in the meditation. This is completely normal. All you would like to do when those things are occurring is just keep cutting it off, letting it go, and bringing the mind back to the breath. The mind is very creative. It's very active. It can have all kinds of different thoughts and images and visualizations during your meditation. And as you're noticing that, just note how creative and how powerful the mind really is, and just keep coming back to the breath and coming back to the breath and coming back to the breath. Eventually, you'll get to the point where these things aren't occurring. It's not a problem that they are occurring, but just know that they are impermanent, that they're not going to be permanent. So as they're occurring, just keep bringing your mind back to the breath. And that's what ultimately you would like to be able to do, because that's what's going to train your mind to be able to eliminate the discontent feelings long term. There are certain qualities that you need to build up. There's an entire eightfold path that is taught as part of the teachings of the Buddha. This is like the core central teaching of the Buddha, where you're learning this eightfold path. This eightfold path is his core central teaching. And what you just did with the meditation is one component of one step. So in order to truly get to enlightenment, an individual needs to know more than just meditation. There's all these 8 individual steps. And this is what I teach in the various courses and retreats and programs that I share, because this is the core central teaching. And there's a lot of other teachings that plug into this that you would need to understand. But meditation is an important component. So people oftentimes focus on meditation, but it's important to know that there's more that you need than just meditation to be able to train your mind and get to enlightenment.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Are there any other questions? Okay, I don't think I see any more questions. All right, so what I'm going to do then is just thank all of you guys for joining. Thank you so much for choosing to learn the teachings of the Buddha today, whether you're at the temple or whether you're online. I really appreciate you dedicating some time to learn and practice the teachings, because this is the very best thing you could ever do for your own mind, for your own life. It's the very best thing you could ever do for the people around you, because as you become more peaceful and joyful, you're going to be causing less and less harm to the people around you. As long as you're causing harm to people around you, this harm is going to come back to you. But with a lack of wisdom, you're not going to know how to not cause harm. So that's where the teachings of the Buddha come in. So you're helping yourself, you're helping those around you, and you're helping all of humanity as you're becoming more and more peaceful. So thank you for joining. If you'd like to join for future events and things like this, we have lots of different opportunities for that. This Friday, I will be back in Chiang Mai. We have a game night at 6 p.m. at the temple. It's a social event. If you'd like to come and hang out, we play some games together right there at the temple. You get to meet other members of the community. Sometimes people bring drinks and snacks and food and things like this. So you're always welcome to do that kind of stuff too and enjoy. There's no expectation that you will do that, but if you'd like to, you're welcome to come on Friday. On Saturday, we have the Pali Canon and English Study Group, both at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m., 9 a.m. at the temple and 9 p.m. I'll be teaching from home. And then on Sunday, we have chapter 13, which is titled Identifying Your Cravings. You're learning how to analyze the mind and practice non-craving and non-clinging. So that's going to be on Sunday morning at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. And then on Monday, I'm going to be starting a brand new course. I've taught this course many times, but it's a new iteration of it on Monday at 9 a.m. at the temple, and I'll be live streaming it as well, and I'll have Zoom. It's called Harmony in Relationships. This is a course where you're learning how to develop harmony in your relationships, because one of the things that an enlightened being is very skillful at is having very harmonious relationships with the people around them. So right now, you might have certain relationships that are challenging and difficult for you, and that's just because the mind lacks wisdom. So in that course, I'm going to teach you how to develop harmonious relationships with the people around you. So again, thank you all for joining. I appreciate that you've decided today you'd like to learn the teachings of the Buddha. And as you'd like to learn more, whether it's through books or classes or courses or videos or podcasts or audiobooks or even personal guidance, you can get help with all of these things. So have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Sawadee ka.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To provide support for this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha. To access more teachings, visit buddhadailywisdom.com. There, you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Remember to establish a daily, consistent meditation practice, along with learning and practicing these teachings. A well-developed meditation practice is the foundation in which to train the mind to attain enlightenment.